Shalom, my name is Todd Bennett, and I'm coming to you during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, known as Hag HaMatzah in Hebrew. And it's a feast, it's a time when we are supposed to rehearse and eat only unleavened bread for 7 days. Now, many of us that participate in the Feast of Unleavened Bread think of eating basically large square crackers throughout those 7 days, but that's not really what matzah was all about. See, unleavened bread is essentially the bread of the Bedouins. And so today we came out into the desert, into the wilderness to be with some Bedouins and experience what matzah is really all about. And I have a piece of matzah, unleavened bread, that was just baked on the fire. And it's soft now because it's still a little warm. But when this sits around for a while, it starts to get hard and cracky. And so it's really kind of a temporary bread that you want to eat when it's warm, because these people are in temporary dwellings and they're on the move, and they don't have the luxury of the city people. They consider the city people to be those of the fluffy bread, the ones that have leisure, the ones that have time to let their bread leaven and rise and then bake it. And they take pride in the Bedouin bread that's baked in the gray ashes. And that's actually a quote from a Bedouin poet. So when we rehearse unleavened bread, we're supposed to be thinking about the Bedouins, the nomadic lifestyle of our patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and Yisrael. And even Yeshua, we know, spent 40 days in the wilderness. And so we start out our feast cycle after we have our Passover meal, and then we eat unleavened bread at that Passover meal. And then we follow that with 7 days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we eat unleavened bread. And the cycle continues then through Shavuot, and it ends at Sukkot. And of course, the people that are baking this bread, they live in sukkahs. The Bedouins in this whole area, they live in temporary dwellings, tents, sometimes modest structures with some temporary walls and such. Sukkahs. So we start our feastly cycle with unleavened bread, the food of the Bedouins. We end our cycle with Sukkot, the dwelling place of Bedouins. And so our entire feast cycle between month 1 and month 7 is to remind us of life in the wilderness, life as nomads, that this place is not our permanent dwelling. We're only here temporarily, so we shouldn't be investing our time and our energy and our money and our resources into building permanent dwellings and kingdoms here on earth, because our kingdom is in the kingdom of Elohim. And of course, the feasts conclude with the 8th day celebration. After Sukkot is over, after we've dwelled in temporary structures for 7 days, it then leads to the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret, where we then look to moving out of those temporary dwellings and moving back into the garden. That 8th day represents new beginnings, a restoration. And so we should be living as Bedouins, as nomads on this planet, until that 8th day when we can finally enter in the gates of the New Jerusalem. So I leave you with that thought that when you rehearse these cycles that we go through every year, the Moadim, the appointed times, think about the fact that Yah has encapsulated them with an emphasis on nomadic lifestyle. So we need to keep that in mind and be looking for a greater fulfillment through the 8th day when we enter into His kingdom. So until next time, from the wilderness, this is Todd Bennett. Shalom.